Huge. So switching gears here a bit, we dominated how to thrive on campus, get efficient, find friends, and do well on the MCAT. But there is one barrier left to getting into medical school. Dun dun dun. The admissions process. Man, that was such a weird thing to do, but I did it. So that's done. So tell me a little bit about the admissions process, and I guess not too much about the admissions process. You apply and you go in, but I guess what are your thoughts on the way it's conducted, and do you think it should change in any manner? And I guess prefacing this, Riley's actually applied to both Canadian schools as well as US schools. So I think he has a little bit of perspective on the changes between both sides of, well, the border. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing, so just to give you a little backstory about sort of some of the Canadian schools, for the schools in Ontario, at least, you submit this sort of common app with your activities, and you write a little description with what you did and your responsibilities and how many hours you had, and then you have your grades and your MCAT, and that's about it. And you send those off, and some schools will have additional essay questions that they'll ask you to write about, and some won't. That will just be sort of the process, that little common app, and then your grades and MCAT. And then actually for a couple schools, they have this ethics exam called Casper, which sort of just tests your ethical reasoning and sort of how you respond to those situations. And it's a written computer exam. And that's sort of the process in a nutshell, for at least the Ontario schools. And sort of to compare that to the States, and something I'll get into a little bit more that I really like about the States is it just seems like a little bit more of a holistic process to me.
How so?
And yeah, so the States, they have that common app too. And so you submit I think 15 activities, and you have all your descriptions for those, which are longer than Ontario schools. And so you get a little bit more space to sort of explain yourself and what you did and sort of what you took away from those experiences. And then you also have an essay on why you want to be a doctor. And I can't remember the exact length of the essay, but you have sufficient space to sort of explain, how this sort of dream started and why you want to go into medicine and sort of what led you to this moment. And I think that's just such a great thing, because that's something that's not really touched upon in Canada. People don't really see your aspirations or your sort of reasoning on why you want to go into this
Profession.
Profession, exactly. And I think that's so important, especially in medicine, is because it's just such a long road, and you just got to be so committed to something like this. And I think not even just to let the schools know that they're getting students that really want this, but just to let the student know that they really want that. I know, like, writing that essay, like, it reminded me, like, of why I wanted to pursue this path. And I mean, I don't know if that sort of hit anybody else like that, but I mean, I sort of had that realization. And so that app gets sent to all the schools you apply to, and you do your like recommendation letters and stuff, and those go to all the schools. But the thing with the States is every single school you apply to comes back to you with essay questions specific to their school. And so I mentioned some schools in Canada do that, but certainly not all. And I think that's sort of the biggest difference between the two, is they all come back to you with essay questions. And I know Duke, for example, they have, I think, 8 or 9 500-word questions. So it is a pretty hefty, it's a pretty hefty task. And they also timestamp when they receive that application in by. So you kind of want to do it as fast as possible, also well. So it's a little bit of a challenge to navigate when you apply to, a ton of schools and you're trying to do all these on a very short notice. But again, like, I applied last summer, and as I was writing all these applications, I was like, this is a lot of work and all this stuff. But the thing that sort of kept me going is the fact that I knew that these things were adding a layer to my application that wasn't seen in Canada. Like, they knew a lot more about me, I felt, in the States, pre-interview. And that's something I really like, because if you're a pre-med out there who's, not super cookie cutter and doesn't get, good grades in their first year, and like I was one of those people. I didn't get good grades first year, and so like I felt like I really had to explain sort of why I wanted to do this, and where my passion comes from, and like explain myself, and show that I had something to contribute that wasn't my grades, because that wasn't my strongest thing. And even through the rest of school, I did okay, but my grades were never my strongest suit. And so I really liked that the states gave me an opportunity to sort of explain, like, why am I here and what do I have to contribute to your school. And I feel like in Canada, at least at some schools, that's maybe lacking a little bit more. And although it'd be more work for the students, I think it'd ultimately benefit them if those schools implemented like even just an essay on like why you want to go into medicine. Um, and yeah, that's sort of my biggest thing I can say about that.
Hey everyone, Parham back after another amazing episode with another amazing guest. We hope we added value into your life so you could take the tips from this episode and fuel your process forward. If you enjoyed our episode today and think other friends or family members may also appreciate the lessons that our podcast brings, be sure to share us with them. Subscribe and rate our show so we know how we did. And always remember, trust the process.